One of the things that keeps me going amidst the challenge, the things that we face, like crossing cultures and corruption and just the various needs that we're seeing, is that I look into the eyes of the kids. And I think this is something that the Lord has done in my heart. I look into the eyes of these kids and I imagine, what if this was my sweet, smiling Zoe that's so calm? What if it was little Michaela, who was facing the terrors of living in fear and without food and without medication, or scared of corrupt officials, or scared of being taken off? My little Michaela, who loves to play Barbies, who's a gift giver, who's always giggling. Or my kissy, soft little Tessia, who puts on ballerina suits and dances around and gives us shows. Or my Eva, who we call the daddy baby because she got my head, but she's got these sparkly little black eyes, and she's so mischievous. Or Tan, my son, who is now into Taekwondo, and he loves to play fight with Dad. What if it was one of them that was born into the situation of the children that we encounter? I encounter the saddest situations. Children who are without parents, children like Tablu that you heard the story of initially that my daughter read, who don't have a daddy, who don't have a mummy anymore, and are living in a place that they are unfamiliar with, in a country that has taken them in but doesn't really want them, that speaks a language they can't understand. These kids are no less valuable than my own sweet children. They were just born to a different mom and dad. They were just born in a different country, slightly different color of skin. In the border town of Mae Sot, where we do a lot of work, the second time I was taken down there, I was taken by a little British woman. She's maybe 5 foot tall on a good hair day. And I'm only 5'6" and a quarter. So you got to add the fractions when you're my height. So I can still have a laugh on her expense. We took her down there, and she's a woman that just loves the people in a way that I had never seen before. We had a couple of volunteers, all about 4 of my kids trailing with me and my wife. We were eating on a busy street in Mae Sot, the border town. And a busy street down there is very different than here. You've got noises and smells you've never smelled before, carts and vendors and stray dogs going. And as we were eating our breakfast to this restaurant open to the street, a little boy came up, begging. Dark face, dirty, fearful look in his eyes, and he came up to us begging. And during that time, it was a time of me feeling out, what does it mean to be a missionary? What does it mean to outreach? And I got to be honest with you, the whole thing of him coming up and intruding in our little breakfast troubled me. I felt so awkward. I was going through the thoughts of what's the right thing to do? I want to look like a loving Christian here. I want to do this, but is it the right thing to do? Is it going to propagate a problem? Am I going to get in trouble with where I'm at? All of these thoughts were spinning through my head, paralyzing me. I was embarrassed. I'm like, I wish he'd go away. What are my kids going to think? What are these volunteers going to think? How am I going to react? In the midst of all of this, the owner of the restaurant comes out and he yells, "Bye! Bye!" He starts yelling at the kid. Bye in Thai is something you'd say to a dog, a stray dog. It's like, get out of here. The little boy looked frightened and he cowered, but he was still hopeful that he was going to get something from us, some little bit of something. And I remember that little lady yelling out to the owner, "Stop it! Stop it!" The owner was taken aback and he said, "Well, this is a thief. We don't want thieves. Get out of here, you little thief." And in words that changed my life, even as a missionary, changed my life and caused me to think and go back to the Lord and say, God, what is it that's missing in my heart? This little lady spoke forth these words, and I believe they are directly the words of Jesus speaking into the situation. She said, "Yes, he may be a thief, but he is also a little boy." The owner went back, and we had some extra toast. We jammed up some toast. We had some crayons we were going to take to a refugee camp. We gave them to this little boy, and he skipped off happily. Now, this statement has stayed with me. And as we go, I no longer see orphans that need help. I don't no longer see a statistic or a people group that's less reached than another. What I see is little boys and little girls just like mine. This simple heart statement has helped to form what we call Compasio now. It's just a group of us, very new, that are coming together and saying we want to exhibit that heart of Jesus. It's influenced in the way that it was presented It has influenced the way that we act. We say, you see something, feel it, get the love of the Lord, and act on it. My workers will ask me, what is it that we should do? And I say, well, I'm not sure, but let's risk on the side of love. Let's just go for it. Let's do it. And let's trust God to take care of things like provision and things like working out this. But I would rather risk on the side of love and get to heaven and have God say, oh, were you ever foolish? You should have thought this one through. Then get to heaven and have him say, well, how come you didn't feed this one? And how come you didn't give bread to this one? And how come you didn't visit this one? I'd rather risk on the side of love.